After 10 years of wandering far from home, a man finally got his own house. He was so excited, he couldn't sleep all night. The next morning, Charles said goodbye to his family and headed back to his hometown to share the joyful news with his neighbors. While Charles was away, his wife Caroline took on all the household responsibilities, caring for their young children. One day, when Caroline went outside to fetch water, she noticed two strange men watching her from a distance. Caroline was terrified, fearing these men might do something dangerous to her and the kids. To protect her children, Caroline stayed awake all night, sitting right in the middle of the living room, singing encouraging songs to keep her spirits up. But what she feared was bound to happen. The sound of galloping horses broke the silence. Caroline was scared stiff. She grabbed her gun, ready to fight if those men dared to come inside. Just when Caroline was on high alert, a man walked in. It wasn't a stranger, it was her beloved husband, Charles. Caroline finally breathed a sigh of relief, hugging her husband and laughing with joy. Her husband was back, and with him, her sense of security returned. The next morning, those two strangers came back again. Caroline was so frightened she couldn't speak. Charles comforted his wife, telling her to relax. Then, he welcomed the men into their little cabin, and even offered them his precious cigars that he'd been saving for years. The man was very pleased. To thank Charles for his hospitality, he took off the necklace he was wearing and gave it to Charles' daughter, Laura. Then, he left the house. From that point on, Caroline slowly let her guard down around the man. Christmas was approaching, and Caroline was deep cleaning every corner of their home. During this special holiday, they kept thinking about one person, their friend Edward, who had helped them before. They wanted to invite Edward to spend Christmas with them, wondering if he'd have time to come over. Meanwhile, in a place they couldn't see, Edward was struggling through ice and snow. The 20 below weather made him shiver uncontrollably, but it didn't stop him from moving forward. He wanted to reach his friend Charles as quickly as possible. Edward walked through the snow for a full 10 hours before reaching Charles's house. When Charles' family saw Edward, they were deeply moved. In such freezing weather, Edward had actually brought them Christmas food. This pure, simple friendship brought tears to their eyes. Although life was tough, everyone had a kind heart. In those days when people couldn't get enough to eat, wasn't this a kind of happiness too? Time flew by, and spring arrived. Charles' family's house kept getting bigger. He even found a large plot of land to grow vegetables and fruits, ensuring they'd never go hungry again. However, while Charles was working, he suddenly noticed smoke rising in the distance. The smoke was coming from the house where they'd lived for years. For some unknown reason, their house had caught fire. Fortunately, none of his family members were hurt. He and his wife worked hard to put out the fire. It seemed like even heaven couldn't bear to watch their misery. Thunder and lightning filled the sky, and a torrential downpour suddenly hit. The rain finally put out the fire in their house. Luckily, the house was only blackened by smoke and wasn't seriously damaged. During dinner, Caroline brought up the man who had come into their house to smoke cigars last time. She was sure he had set the fire, trying to drive them away. As they were talking, they suddenly heard urgent horse hoofbeats outside. Charles immediately became alert. Maybe his wife was right. He quickly grabbed his weapon, ready to protect his family. Just then, the door was kicked open. The man didn't want to hurt Charles's family. He had simply come to have a chat with them today. He had some influence in this area, and from now on, Charles could live on this land with his family. Charles was thrilled to hear this news. The very next morning, he took his family to work in the fields. Their sweat watered the land and nourished their hope for survival. But just when everyone was caught up in their joy, disaster struck. The local sheriff walked over and handed Charles a notice. It clearly stated that the government wanted them to leave this place as soon as possible and find somewhere else to live. This land would be used for other purposes. And so, Charles's family had to embark on their journey to find a new home once again.